Welcome back to Good Neighbors. And when we left off, we were talking to, and we are still talking to, Chaplain David Barnes of Hospice of Wichita Falls. And we were talking about the help, the healing help, I call it like that, for the children who have had someone in their life who has died, and not just someone who has been in hospice, but anyone who has, you know, any child that has someone who has died. They still need that healing. They still need to express themselves to get whatever it is out. And sometimes the family members and friends cannot do it, because they're close to it as well. They may not fully understand, but there is a place for that to take place. Now, a couple of the other groups that you have counseling, I'm calling them counseling, but it may just be get together and let's talk. What are those? Well,
and our counseling is a good word for it, because our licensed professional counselors on staff do conduct these programs. Our summer camp is Grinnigan, but then in the spring and the fall we have a program called Building Bridges that goes on for 12 or 13 weeks, where one night a week, literally everybody in the whole family can come and be a part of this. We have from the adults all the way down to the little kids. I volunteered in this program this spring, and I had 5-year-olds.
What?
And I was amazed at, after several weeks of them being in this program, they could articulate their loss without undue emotion and not being but not emotionally separated from it. They were dealing with and accepting what had happened in their life.
We think these babies aren't paying attention, but good grief. I mean, of course, it's enough we have to deal with adults. But wow, I mean, obviously God has us on this for a reason, in the sense of with the kids. 5 years old.
So Building Bridges will be spinning up for our fall session here pretty quick.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. And then, of course, the grief sessions, with the counseling sessions with the adults, to have them do the same thing as well. Now, it takes more than the counselors to get this done. And, of course, we know it takes more than administration to make sure that the funding and all that is there to make sure this is done. So how do all of the individuals, the nurses, doctors, and yourself, how does everyone work together?
Well, one of the things that I want to make sure people understand is that we get patients sometimes too late. And, you know, people are afraid, or they don't want to give up, or whatever their reasoning is, and they come to us too late. But when we get them in the right timing, a lot of times the patients get better.
And I've heard of that, and I've seen that.
And it's because of the amount of care that they're getting. They're getting care from our interdisciplinary team, which means they're getting care from skilled nurses, from certified nursing assistants. They're getting care from chaplain service if they request it, from a social worker, and from a licensed professional counselor if they desire.
So they're getting a complete...
They're getting more care than they were getting when they were being medically, curatively treated. And they're getting on a 24-hour basis.
And that's not knocking medicine, because God created and allowed it. But you know, you're more than just the body. You have other aspects of you that need to be taken care of, and that's wonderful to see everybody working together to make sure that, you know what, whichever way it goes, we got to make sure we do our best for that individual as well as for the family.
And Samantha, we can't cure their disease. And that's why we have them, is because the doctors can't cure their disease. But what we can do is improve their quality of life. And sometimes when we do that, it actually extends their life. And there are smiles, and there's a freedom for the family to not be so involved in the hands-on care every day, that they can actually be with that loved one instead of just taking care of them.
Or the flip side of it is, they're not always there with the person.
That's true.
Because that could wear you down. That could, you know, you're like, ooh, I can't do anything else. And then that person can get an attitude about the individual, their illness, and you shake your head like, yes, I've seen it. Where it's like, if you would use wisdom with what God has allowed and given, in the sense of a facility or an organization to help. And we can say that with any organization that, you know, is help. But sometimes our stubbornness, our pride, that's what I'll call it, our pride will get in the way of, I don't want, and I know what's best for this person. I know how to do it.
And honestly, this is where viewers can be involved, because we have volunteers, over 200 volunteers right now, who give their time sometimes just to go and sit with a patient
Yes.
so that the family member can go to the grocery store.
Or just go take a nap, get some refreshing,
Right.
because my God, it could be totally draining when you have someone that's ill and they don't understand fully what's going on, but their body is, and then you don't fully understand because you're not going through, but you understand that, you know what, I need some help. So what I want you to do right now is look in that camera. And I would say compel someone to realize and know that there is help for them to be able to come and receive the services that is needed, as well as if someone feels compelled to come and help.
Okay.
To help someone or help hospice per se. But look in that camera right there.
All right. Hospice is a place and a concept that helps people improve their quality of life when everybody else has kind of given up on them. And if that pulls at your heart because of someone you love that's suffering, then I would hope that you would call us and at least find out if they're appropriate for our services. If that pulls at your heart because you want to be a part of that, you can volunteer. You can change lives. Maybe you are not comfortable with being with patients. We have volunteers that help clerk and do things in our center just to keep the wheels rolling. And so I would hope that you would understand there's places for you at hospice, whether you are on our services or whether you're a family that's being ministered to by our services or whether you just want to give of yourself.
And that's good to know and hear personally from someone, because we get the pamphlets and we see the commercials and we know, oh, they're there, yeah. But to have someone directly speak, that's why I said look in the camera and speak directly to the individual. Now, as I know we're going to go to a break soon, but with hospice, now we're going to turn a little bit.
Okay. I knew you would.
You knew I was going to, you kind of know,
You and I have been around a while.
Yeah, I kind of, turn. As you said at the beginning, you were a pastor, you obey God, and it's time to shift. And so you shifted. And some people may not be able to do that or may not be able to obey or whatever. But in this shift, in this obedience, what have you seen transpire even within your life concerning hospice and having to service the individuals as well as work with the coworkers?
When I came on board hospice, I needed hospice
That's
as
good.
much as they needed me.
That's good.
There's probably some ways that hospice saved my life. There's certainly some people there that are part of that. And we have a tremendous staff. I've never heard anybody say I like my job around there. They all say I love my job.
Okay.
It's a calling. You can't do it unless you're called to it. And I would have never dreamed of being where I am. I would have never thought, oh, I can do that.
But wait a minute, I know I interrupted your moment.
That's all right.
And the reason why I did is because you are a pastor. Pastors, they deal with the sick and they deal with the, what I'm saying? So somebody may be like, well, how is he saying this?
Well, when you're a pastor, you don't deal with the sick and the dying every day.
Okay, that's good.
Okay,
That's good.
and you said something about not having a church anymore. I have a congregation of a couple of hundred people, if you think about it. And I get to minister to their most specific need in that most specific moment. Whether it's singing them a hymn or reading them a scripture or praying for them or just stroking their hair and telling them it's going to be okay.
And that's a blessing to be able to be tangible in that realm and to go from, I was overseeing, now I'm not just overseeing, I am seeing. And I'm really partaking in, and it's bringing healing as well as brought some things I know out of you that you thought, that's not me, God. And God's like, well, let me see what I created and what's within you.
That's right.
We're going to come back with some more real brief right after this message. Thank you for staying tuned into Good Neighbors on this station.